Hey, Zach Munowitz here for Submission Audio. Today we'll be checking out their latest plugin PreFire, which models 11 of the world's most famous microphone preamps. We're going to be taking a look through the session of a song called Opia by my band Moving Paintings. I wrote this song about 5 years ago with my wife, and I mixed it back then too. So I figured I would use PreFire to refresh the track and breathe some new life into it. So I've got the session up here. I'll just play a little bit of the song so you can get a feel for it.
We build ourselves with your simplicity. I feel like it's back and it's tighten at the same time. I know it's written in invisible ink. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time.
So you get the point, kind of happy, upbeat, alt-rock sort of thing. So I'll go over the kick and snare first. The kick and snare both have a live and sample, which have been condensed into buses here, and each bus has an instance of PreFire on it. So by themselves, the drums sound like this. I'm using the germanium model on the snare. This one is not subtle at all. There's a lot of color and saturation that I'm doing here, really pushing into it with the drive control. So I'll play that with it in and out. And in the context of the full drum bus. So you can hear it's really adding a lot of weight to the transient and sort of smoothing everything out. That sort of saturation is really helpful for getting the snare up to the level you want in the mix without having the drum bus pump really hard. So really love what that's doing there. I'll just run you real quick through the full drive range of the germanium preamp, and I think you'll really hear what it's doing. So you can hear even when I'm maxing it out at 10, there's still a really kind of musical and like thick crunch to it. It's not like just mindlessly clipping the sound. So it's still very usable through the whole range of the plugin. On the kick, I've got the Millennium model here. Pretty transparent sounding preamp, adds a little bit of weight though, and some nice coloration that I really liked. So I'll sort of bypass that in and out so you can hear what it's doing. You can hear it sort of lose a little life when I bypass it. It's doing this really nice sort of harmonic thing in the upper mid-range. It's giving it some really nice energy. Also on my drums, I'm running the TIGI on cymbals. This is basically like the perfect, huge, warm, vintage console tone. I'm pushing this one into some pretty heavy clipping, and here's how it sounds on these cymbals. And if I play that with the rest of the drums, you can really hear how much energy it's adding to everything. Clipping the cymbals like that, it has sort of a similar effect to heavy parallel compression on the drums, where you're getting more sustain and energy, but this does it in such a musical way, and it just adds such a nice thickness to the overall sound. Next up, we've got bass, and I'm using the Millennium preamp here again, but pushing it a lot harder than I was on the kick. And I'm very intentionally trying to get some more saturation in the top end and help the bass cut through the mix better by doing that. So I'll A/B that, and you can hear what it's doing. So you can really hear it's adding a ton of weight to the bass, and it's also giving it such a nice crunch. And I'll play that with the drum bus, and I think you'll be able to hear how much better it cuts through with everything else. That sort of cut in the mid-range goes a long way in a mix, especially in the center channel. You have your snare, you have the mid channel of your rhythm guitars. So having that sort of separation on the bass is really helpful, especially for more distorted tones like this. All right, let's move on to rhythm guitars. If you know me, you're probably like, Zach, where are the guitars? So here are the guitars. I'll show you what I'm doing on them. We are using the AP1 on guitars. This is probably the most colorful preamp in the whole collection. This thing just shines on rhythm guitars, adds such a nice bite to them, while still keeping the character of the signal. So I'll play this end part here, which has more rhythm guitars in it.
I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time. I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time.
And I'll just solo those. I feel like it just opens up the top end and the mid-range so much. The particular IR that I chose for this, I think it was some kind of like Marshall IR or something like that. It has this more like nasally character, and I feel like this really opens up the upper mid-range of that in a nice way. Here's a section in the pre-chorus with some lower gain and more of a strumming pattern. And on my lead guitars, I've chosen to use the N3V3 preamp. You know what this is already. So much vibe, character, everything you're looking for in a mic preamp. So here's how that sounds on some of these more ambient guitars in the second verse. And in context. That added grit from this preamp fills out the mix really nicely, and that guitar cuts so much better when I have this on. I feel like an overall theme with a lot of these models is just like energy and life. It's really hard to sort of quantify, but I think it's like a combination of the harmonics it's adding and just how it's affecting the transients. It just adds a lot of like vibrance and energy to the signal. We've got acoustic guitars up next, and I'm using the Mida emulation here. This is based off of a famous live console and adds a really nice clarity to the signal. I started with the synth warmer preset here and then sort of tweaked it. It's funny, these guitars were recorded on my old cheap like parlor guitar. And so you can see on the side, I've got so many plugins here to sort of like shape the sound the way I wanted it. And then we've got PreFire at the end of the chain, and it just adds such a nice like final polish on the sound. And it helps take out some of that like cheap sort of character that you'll hear in the sound. So what I'm hearing there is some more richness in the low mids, and also a bit more presence in the high end, with a bit of a dip around like 8 to 9K, like the stuff that gets really harsh and like tinny. So I think it's doing a really nice job of sort of shaping the sound and giving it that final polish without changing the actual character of the sound too much. We've got our vocal bus, and I'm using the B43 emulation. I started here with the vocal parallel scorcher, but you can see I cranked the mix on it and adjusted the input gain so that it's less of a scorch and more of a sizzle. So let's hear what that's doing.
I know it's written in invisible ink, but I'm so lucky to have you in my life. I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time.
So really what I'm trying to do here is really push that upper mid-range and just get some more saturation and grit in it to help cut through the mix. And this just does such an incredible job of that in a really musical way. I think on this ending part here, where I'm like singing out more, you can really hear that saturation I was talking about.
I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time. I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time. I know I'm not making a fool of myself this time.
It's just this like really nice sheen of distortion over everything. And I Really love how that sounds. Also on vocals, I'm using this V-Box preamp. It's designed specifically for vocals. It sounds great on a lot of stuff, but I'm using it in parallel here to give some more energy to this pre-chorus vocal. I'm maxing out the drive on this and blending it at about 30%, so you can hear what that's doing.
We speak in breathless glances, motion of time collapses, rebuilds itself as synchronicity.
Really even, really lush sounding distortion on that. And in the full mix, I think you can really hear how much it helps the vocal cut.
We speak in breathless glances, motion of time collapses, rebuilds itself as synchronicity.
The TIGI preamp that I use on my cymbals, I'm also using it on this synth lead in the pre-chorus. It's on a synth sound that has a lot of reverb and ambience on it, and it adds such a nice wash to it that I love. So you can hear at the TIGI, even if you're pushing it super hard, you never get any harshness or scratchiness on the top end. And here's that lead in context.
We speak in breathless glances, motion of time collapses, rebuilds itself as synchronicity.
Just like with the cymbals, massive difference in sustain and presence when you drive it super hard like that. What's sick about PreFire is that these can all be as subtle or as intense as you want them to be. So I encourage you to push them really hard, see what the character is of each one, and really get a feel for each preamp in here. I think you can find something that works on literally any source. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you all found this helpful, and drop a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. Peace.